What the hell is up, everybody? Louis back here again for an exciting UFC fight night. Returning to the Apex. Super hyped about that. Go from a full house to nobody. It is what it is, though, man. We got a great fight. We got a big banger heavyweight matchup. Sergey Pavlovich taking on Curtis Razor Blades. Heavyweight is kind of goofy right now, but this is an important matchup. Best believe each guy wants to win this very badly to stay in the race. Sergey Pavlovich is ranked number 3. Curtis Blades is number 4. Pavlovich has been on a murder spree. Blades has had kind of a weird trajectory, but he's here. And they're the two top guys at heavyweight. Supposedly, John Jones and Stipe aren't fighting for the title until November now, so who knows what's going to happen. But, you know, you want to get that victory if you're one of those guys. And then in about a month, you got Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Jailton Almeida, number 12. It seems like they're trying to push Jailton Almeida, so who knows what's going to happen with that. But it's kind of a mini heavyweight tournament going on here, but who knows when they're going to fight for the title. But I'm very excited for that, though. Curtis Blades finally going to get his big shot here. And then you got the return of Bobby King Green at lightweight, taking on Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon kind of got screwed with the Patty situation, so they threw him an awesome fight, and it'd be a big victory for both guys. Both guys could use a victory here, kind of in the later stages of their career, but Jared Gordon's trying to be a fan favorite. Bobby Green is definitely a fan favorite, somewhat of a legend, so should be all action, should be really fun. And my low-key banger is going to be at welterweight. Jeremiah Wells taking on Matt SEMELSBERGER. Both guys coming off really impressive performances, and I'm excited to see. I think this is one of those fights where they can't keep two rising prospects, so gotta get rid of one of them, and maybe the other one will come back. But I'm excited, man. Jeremiah Wells hits like a truck, and Matt SEMELSBERGER just puts together good fights, and he's got some power of his own, so I'm excited for that one. And of course, you got Muhammad Usman making his official UFC debut, so should be a fun fight. Let's get right into this one here. First fight of the night at 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. Brady HIESTAND taking on Dana BATGEREL. HIESTAND took on Fernie Garcia his last fight. In the first round, he rushes in, and then he gets dropped with the short right hook immediately. He shoots a desperate double leg, but he scrambles through to the RNC, and then he's able to get the top right into side control there. So decent scramble ability, even though he had to take some damage. But then he pulls the Darce, and he gets his back taken, but he's able to scramble through it. And then he takes his back, gets the figure 4 in, rear naked choke attempt. Then he escapes, but then he lands some head kicks on the feet. So still chasing him down there. And then in the second round, he skirts along the fence, but he's able to land some head kicks when he gets pressed. Then he lands a straight on double. His attempt gets stuffed, and he eats a 1-2 when he's skirting along the fence. But then he gets a single off of a step-in jab. And then he's right into half guard, transitions to north-south, kind of looking for a Kimura or something like that. Just kind of staying moving, staying busy on top. But then back on the feet, he eats some hooks, and he gets shot up against the fence, and he pulls the guillotine, and he eats some ground and pound for his trouble. But, you know, pulling guillotine is never the best solution. Then in the third round, his double attempt gets stuffed, but then he's able to reshoot, collects the double off the fence, and he takes his back, gets one hook in, transitions to the body triangle again with some rear naked choke attempts and some good ground and pound there. So just really putting a stamp on every round, and I really like seeing that. And he's a guy that once he gets a good position on the ground, he's going to land some damage as well. So, and then Dana BATGEREL, he took on King Ho Kang his last fight. In the first round, he eats some jabs at range, and he looks to land some lead hooks and some crosses, but they're just a little too short out of range. But then he lands a lunge right hook and an uppercut, and then he lands a jab, then overhand right. Things started heating up a little bit, and then he lands a leg kick and a cross, and then he blitzes with an uppercut, and then he's able to follow up with some hooks there. So really good at getting after it in the first round. Then in the second round, he eats a jab whenever he's loading up with his hook, but then he lands some lunge overhands. They're a little too short, and then he eats some jabs in return. But then he's able to land a straight right, and then followed by a left hook, and then he eats a cross off of his lead hook, though. Then in the third round, he just starts eating some lead hooks while he's trying to circle into him. But then he throws some wide hooks, gets countered for it, getting a little desperate, I guess. But then he eats some hooks in the firefight. So pretty good showing from each guy. Both guys can scrap here. Dana BATGEREL minus 145. Brady HIESTAND plus 125. I've been going back and forth on this one. I thought Brady HIESTAND's wrestling would be superior, but Dana BATGEREL, I know Kyung Ho Kang isn't a wrestler, but he's able to stuff a couple takedown attempts. for what that's worth. But I just think Brady HIESTAND, he's not going to be able to keep that pace all 3 rounds. And even in the Garcia fight, when he was taking it back, he slid off. He can't maintain position solidly for a whole round. And I think Dana BATGEREL is going to light him up on the feet. And I think Brady HIESTAND is going to try to just get a little desperate with his shots. I think BATGEREL lands some big shots. I don't know if anybody gets finished, but I can see Brady HIESTAND having like a really good first round and then kind of slowing down or not being able to get a takedown. So minus 145. I'm going to go with Dana BATGEREL here, but it should be a fun fight to kick off the card with. Okay, second fight on the card at 145 pounds, men's featherweight. You got Francis Fire Marshall taking on William GOMIS. Should be a fun one. 2 guys new to the promotion. Fire Marshall took on Marcelo Rojo his last fight. This was his UFC debut. In the first round, he presses with a bunch of jabs, but then he eats a 1-2 and some counters when he's just kind of walking towards him a little recklessly. His double attempt gets stuffed, and then he eats some elbows, but then he's able to get up and drop him with a right cross, and he shoots for the single, and he's able to finally complete the back trip takedown right in the side control. He's able to keep the overhook, then he switches to front headlock position, but then he kind of eats some elbows whenever he's trying to collect the leg again. So, but then in the second round, he just backs out of the hook range. He's able to land a 1-2 and some jabs, and then he dips the overhand, and he's able to land a short right hook, and then he gets the clinch, and inside the clinch gets the KO from there. So just nasty, just looking for some knockouts, and could carry his power to the second round. So didn't gas himself out in the first round, so that's good to see. And then William GOMIS, he took on Jarno Aarons his last fight. In the first round, he gets pressured toward the fence, but he's able to back out of the kick range and the hook range, and he pumps some leg kicks while he's circling, and then he's able to block the headlock attempt, and he's able to reverse it with a back trip right into full guard position. Then in the second round, he misses a Superman punch, and then he eats a lunge right cross, and then he gets clipped with a knee off of his low single attempt, but then he's able to complete the clinch, and he's able to get the hip toss, takedown right into full guard, land some ground and pound, not too much, just enough to stay busy pretty much. But then he gets clipped whenever he's trying to punch his way into the clinch. He eats a counter, but then he's able to duck the cross attempt, and then he gets a double, but then he gets chest wrapped through, but then he's able to scramble, and he's able to get the clinch, and then he was able to roll through another scramble. Through a wizard kick attempt by Aarons, but didn't go reverse, so that's pretty good. So it's hard to reverse this guy, obviously. Then the second round, he's able to duck the hook, and he lands a right hook and a body kick, but then he eats a body shot, but then he just kind of circles out of range and just gets a fresh reset, and then he clinches and completes a double leg off the fence, and he survived the triangle / armbar attempt, and it was in pretty deep. Kind of a rookie mistake, I guess, but he was able to survive it. So, hopefully he just is aware of that next time, But William GOMIS, plus 170. Francis Fire Marshall, minus 200. It's a tough one. Both guys are new. I believe it's each guy's second fight in the UFC. I'm going to go with Francis just because I think he's definitely more aggressive. I think he can land some big shots on William. And William's going to need to be able to skirt on the outside and pepper him with shots throughout the fight. And he just doesn't really go for the finish. Francis does go for the finish. I think he'll be able to land some big shots on William. If he's able to cut him off on the cage, I think he can do that. I think he can land some big shots and get the takedowns and just kind of beat him up on the ground. But, we'll see. William usually stays pretty solid. So, I don't know. It's a big price tag, but I just have a feeling about Francis, so I'm going to go with him. Too bad one of these rising prospects has to get knocked off, but it is what it is. It's a UFC. Third fight of the card, 265 pounds, men's heavyweight. Muhammad Usman, yes, Kamaru's brother, taking on Junior TAFA, yes, Justin TAFA's brother. So battle of the brothers here, very interesting. Should be a pretty sloppy fight, but Junior TAFA is making his UFC debut. He was just a professional kickboxer in Glory. And he's only had a couple of MMA fights, so it should be interesting. And Muhammad Usman, doesn't have that many fights himself. But Muhammad took on Zach Pauga his last fight. This was the Ultimate Fighter finale. In the first round, he pumps some jabs at range, a little too short. But then he eats a Superman punch in return. And then he eats a head kick, but then he's able to kind of push him down with it, just kind of runs right through him. Then he lands a step-in overhand left, but then he eats a cross in return. And then he throws some wild overhands, and he's lunging forward, and he misses, and eats some jabs in return, kind of getting a little wild, a little desperate. But then in the second round, he just pulls back whenever Zach throws a jab, and then he just lands a step in, short left hook, and gets the knockout out of nowhere. Never seen Usman knock somebody out like that. So, yeah, I was surprised. Because his Ultimate Fighter fights went to the decision, so, you know. And then Junior TAFA, it was really hard to find a full fight on him, but I believe I got the gist of his last fight in Ryzen. Took on Tyoshi Kamiyama. In the first round, he just lands a lead left hook, which drops him. And then he lands some right... Sorry, he lands lead left hook, drops him, and then he lands a right and a hook flurry, and then a left up against the ropes whenever he gets back up. And then he drops him with another overhand right, and then he gets a TKO, and then he lands a flurry. Sorry, drops him with another overhand right. He gets around his back and just beats the shit out of him. A flurry of ground and pound, gets a TKO. But yeah, that lead left hook was nasty. So, yeah. Couldn't watch the whole fight, so. And then in a different, I just saw a random fight on Twitter of MMA. He's able to frame the guy off the cage. He lands some hooks into the body. Then he pushes off his head, and then he lands a lead right hook, knocks him the hell out. So, I don't know, man. He only has a few MMA fights, so it was hard for me. Junior TAFA -110, Muhammad Usman -110. I don't know. They say Muhammad Usman can wrestle. I personally haven't seen him wrestle. I did watch some of his PFL fights. Those were a couple years ago, though, so I can't really remember if he wrestled too much. I don't think he did. I remember, yeah, he got knocked out, I think, or submitted in one of his fights. But I'm just going to go up Junior TAFA. I just think Muhammad, he's too, he's stiff. He doesn't move well. I think if they get into a gunfight, Junior TAFA is going to be able to get him on the inside, land some big shots on Muhammad, and really press him. Muhammad, it seems like he just kind of has to have the perfect shot. Like, Junior's going to have to rush into him face first for him to land that hook again, I think. So, I don't know. It's a big gamble, but I'm going to go with Junior TAFA. He hits pretty hard. I mean, I know Muhammad does, but I think, and Junior TAFA, I think he's going to be faster, too. He's going to be more agile. The whole fight to go under 1.5 rounds, -120, not bad, but I'm going to go for Junior on this one. Okay, the feature fight on the prelims. A rare women's featherweight bout, 145. Kale Rosa moving up from 135. Should get interesting. Taking on Norma Dumont. Kale Rosa, I don't know. I guess the winner gets a title shot. I don't really know anymore. No offense. It's women's featherweight. I didn't know it existed. Kale Rosa took on Lena Landsberg her last fight at 135. In the first round, she pressures to the fence, lands some leg kicks, but then she gets dropped with a straight right, but then she's able to land some hooks into the clinch, but then she gets reversed, but she's able to stuff the trip attempt with an overhook, and then she gets on top into half guard, and then she just kind of works for the Kimura for the rest of the round. Then the second round, she level changes off of Lena's 1-2. Then she able to complete the double right into half guard. Doesn't do a whole lot with it. Then on the feet, she's able to duck the hook, get another double. Double is easy money right now. Then in the third round, she gets blitzed, but she pulls the tie clinch, lands some knees, but then she gets clinched to the fence. She's able to break free. Nothing really happens. Then she lands some jabs in the pocket, into the clinch, lands some elbows, and a 1-2. So, and then Norma Dumont, she took on Danielle Wolf. Danielle Wolf, accomplished female boxer. This was her first UFC fight. In the first round, she's at range. She pumps some jabs, a little too short, but then she's able to land some leg kicks, and then she just backs out of the striking range. She rocks her with the right cross off of her jab, but then she eats a straight right, and then she lands a left hook. Sorry, eats a left hook at range right after the straight right, and then she lands a right cross off of her blitz though. And then in the second round, she lands an uppercut and then an overhand counter, and she eats some hooks in the pocket, but then she's able to pull the tie clinch, get the outside trip takedown. Doesn't do a ton with it. And then she's able to maintain that underhook clinch, keep pressure on the fence. But then she drops her with the right cross off of a wide hook that Danielle's throwing. But then she clinches, and then she drops her again with a jab and a right cross right down the middle. Then in the third round, she's able to get the high single into half guard, ground and pound, transitions to mount, and just kind of rides it out. So, solid showing from each ladies. Norma Dumont, -110. Kale Rosa, -110. I don't know. I'm going to go with Norma Dumont because she's a real 145er. Kale Rosa's moving up. Yeah, I don't know. I think Norma Dumont is just going to be more active, be more in her face. I don't know if they're going to take each other down, but I think Norma will be able to get that tie clinch, land some nasty knees, rip some shots to the body, maybe get her down, clinch her up, just clinch her to the fence more, I think. Just land a little more. Who knows, man. All right. Co-main event of the prelims at 135 pounds, men's bantamweight. The return of YAHYA taking on Montel Jackson. This should be a decent one. Montel Jackson, kind of a slow slow and steady riser at bantamweight. Could be a big name for him to get a win off of, so it seems like a setup fight for Montel. YAHYA took on King Ho Kang back in 2021, a long time ago. At this point, in the first round, he hits some jabs and lead hooks when he's pressing, but then he's able to catch the knee, and he's able to finish the double against the fence, and then he's able to get around his back standing. Can't do a ton with it, though. Then at range, or on the feet, he eats some jabs at range and some crosses whenever he's moving into the pocket. He misses the leg kicks, though, and he eats a 1-2. Then he gets dropped with a clean 1-2. And then his desperate single attempt gets stuffed at the end. Then in the second round, he gets taken down. Sorry, he gets a takedown off of a leg kick right into half guard, and he takes the back with one hook. Then he's able to collect the body triangle and just kind of ride him out. And kind of goes for a naked choke, but not really. Doesn't land a ton of ground and pound. Then in the third round, he eats some jabs and a blitz of overhands, and then he eats a cross and an uppercut, and then he gets dropped with a straight right, and then his takedown attempt gets stuffed, but then he's able to use the front headlock position to take the back. Then he gets in a half guard and lands some ground and pound to end the fight. So yeah, not very good on the feet, but he's able to get those takedowns and do some work on the ground. So tough one, but we'll see. And then Montel Jackson, he took on Julio Arce his last fight. In the first round, he gets a high single to the clinch against the fence, and he's able to use the underhook to maintain position. And then he circles, skirts the fence, and he looks for some jabs while he's backing up, but then he eats some lead hooks, and he misses the 1-2, but then he gets taken down with a body lock trip at the end. But then in the second round, he lands some lead hooks, and then he just kind of backs out of range, and then he's able to lands crosses, and then he's able to land a short hook. Lands left cross, then he lands a short hook, but then he lands some counter jabs and a cross, and he's able to get the high single to the fence, and then he's able to get around his back standing. Doesn't do a ton with it, though, but he's able to secure the position, secure the round. Then in the third round, he drops him with a jab off of his knee whenever he's moving back. So pretty precise timing. And then he's able to land some hard ground and pound at the end. It kind of stands over him, gets a lot of leverage. It looks like he's going to finish it, but doesn't. But then he's able to catch the strike, and then he's able to land some jabs toward the end there. So, just kind of getting him to punch his hand, land some nice jabs at the end though. Montel Jackson looked pretty solid, looked pretty smooth. That first round, he just kind of gave up. It was very close, and he just kind of stopped fighting there at the end. But Montel Jackson, -600, YAHYA, +450. I don't really know. I mean, this price is insane, but I just don't see YAHYA winning. I think Montel Jackson's going to line him up on their feet. Montel Jackson can wrestle a little bit. I think he'll be able to stuff the takedowns. But if not, if YAHYA gets him on the ground, Montel Jackson's going to be in trouble because YAHYA can get the back. But YAHYA's coming off a long layoff, so I don't know. But YAHYA, taking a lot of damage. I'm going to bet on Montel Jackson, but I'm going to put my money on YAHYA because +450 is a lot of money. And, Montel Jackson, he gives up rounds sometimes. So, but my official pick is going to be Montel Jackson. I'm going to go with the smart, the logical pick. But who knows, dude, Main event of the prelims at 155 pounds. This is a low-key banger here. Rick Glenn making his return, longer return, taking on Christos GIAGOS. Rick Glenn, his last fight was in 2021 with that draw with Grant Dawson. And Grant Dawson has gone on to get some pretty decisive wins, some pretty big victories. So if Rick Glenn can come back and get his victory, Rick Glenn's a player at 155. So this is low-key kind of an important fight for Rick Glenn. But in that fight against Grant Dawson, in the first round, he lands a body kick, but then he gets doubled right away. Doesn't do much of anything to get up. Gave up a round. That's how it goes. Grant Dawson, very good wrestler. Then in the second round, he walks into a double, but then he's able to use the chest wrap, and he's able to use that to get to his feet. He defends a single leg attempt with the wizard, but then he gets foot swept into half guard. But he's able to minimize the damage, keeps a closed guard, and doesn't take a lot of punches, really, and just kind of keeps moving and doesn't just sit there and accept it. So what are you going to do? Third round, though, he needs a 10-8, gets the 10-8. He's able to stuff the double attempt, and he's able to pancakes him with the double. He's able to get the overhook and feed his hips into his face and get on top of him into half guard. And then he's able to transition to knee on belly, and then he lands some elbows and keeps that overhook, lands some ground and pound from the front headlock, and then he just kind of pulls the darce. And did Grant Dawson go out? Who knows? But he got the 10-8 round, and he could have finished him if he had a little more time. So Really good bounce back third round. You just need him to do it in one more round. Would definitely win the fight. And then Christos Giagos took on Thiago Moises his last fight. In the first round, he lands a step and cross, but then he gets singled to the fence. He defends with an underhook, does a decent job, but then he gets taken down and gives up his back into a backpack situation and gets submitted standing with a rear naked choke. Moises is pretty good. Before that, he took on Arman Tsarukyan. In the first round, he lands a right hook, and then he pancakes him off of his double attempt. And then he's able to keep the underhook clinch when they get to the feet. He can't keep him down, obviously. But then he lands a front kick, but then he gets dropped with the left hook. And then he gets TKO'd with ground and pound around the back. And Tsarukyan, I've never seen a person hit somebody harder on the ground. So, but, you know, he hung in there. He has some good stuff. I just don't know if he can put a whole fight together. Christos Giagos, plus 130. Rick Glenn, minus 150. I don't like the layoff, but Christos Giagos, he seems like a do-or-die, kind of like a one-round guy. It seems like, for the most part, he's going to throw some crazy stuff at the beginning. And I think Rick Glenn's wrestling will make the difference here. Rick Glenn can wrestle. Rick Glenn has decent defensive wrestling. I think that's going to make the difference. Rick Glenn's got submissions, too. Just like Rick Glenn going to a draw with Grant Dawson, I think that's decently impressive. So I'm going to go with Rick Glenn, minus 150. But, you know, both guys kind of have similar skill sets. But, yeah, we'll see. You know, Giagos stuffed Arman's takedown and took him down, got on top. So, I don't know. It's anybody's fight, but Christos Giagos just kind of gets finished in the first round, it seems like. So, I'm going to go for Rick Glenn. First fight on the main card. Low-key, my favorite fight on the card. I'm very interested in this one. 170 pounds, men's welterweight. Jeremiah Wells taking on Matt Semi the Jedi Semelsberger. Both guys coming off of pretty impressive performances, if you ask me. Both guys have had pretty good careers in the UFC so far. So, you know, I think whoever wins this fight, if they do it impressively, I think they might be getting a little push here. Maybe close to a top 15 matchup. So, I'm excited. I'm really excited for this one. I didn't think I was going to be, but I am. Jeremiah Wells took on Court McGee his last fight. That was his third fight in the UFC. In the first round, he lunges some hooks very wildly. He's a wild man. He misses mostly, and he throws a jab. And then an overhand, then he just lands a left hook and gets a knockout with one punch to Court McGee, who's tough as nails. So, yep. And then he took on Warlley Alves before that. In the first round, he drops him with a hook blitz, goes into full guard ground and pound, and then he gets the cross wrist, kind of transitions to half guard around the back. But then back on the feet, he rips the body into the clinch. Then he lands a jab and an overhand, and he misses some odd hooks off of jabs. And then in the third round, he lands a 1-2-1 combination. Then he lands a straight right. And then he drops him with the counter hook off of his jab. And then a hook whenever he's on his knees and gets the knockout. So, yeah, like he hit him so fast, I didn't even really know what he hit him with at first. So, yeah, man, he's very explosive and he can carry his... Sorry, that was the second round. Nope, that fight went 3 rounds. Yes. So, yeah, so very interesting stuff. Kind of a newcomer to the scene. He's a little older than a prospect, but I'm very excited. Oh, and then also before the Court McGee fight, he took on Mateus Mathia, Blood Diamond, and beat him. But I just didn't think that, you know, I didn't think it would mean a whole lot. And Semelsberger can wrestle a little bit. So Semelsberger took on Jake Matthews his last fight. In the first round, he stalks him to the fence, and he lands... feints the jab, and then he drops him with an overhand right. And then he lands a left cross and some uppercuts in the collar tie. And then he gets a single leg takedown right into full guard, lands some ground and pound. And that right hand was just money for Semelsberger the whole night. And everybody thought Matthews was going to win. Like, everybody's high on Matthews. Then in the second round, he's able to duck the jab, and he gets a single bow step takedown, but he can't hold him. But then he gets the tie clinch, lands some knees on the way up, makes him pay for it. But then he eats left hook off of throwing his wide hook, and they both throw some 1-2s, but then he lands a left hook, and then he's able to back out of range. But then he gets backed up with some jabs, but then he dips with a right cross, and then he throws another one right up top, like boom, boom. And then he looks... And then he drops him with the second one that he throws. And it was like in quick succession. And like, Matthews just, like, went down, like, easily every time. So I don't know if that's a chin issue for Matthews or if SEMELSBERGER just hits that hard, but it was impressive. Then in the third round, he drops him with a step and right cross, and then he looks for the cross, but then he eats a flurry against the fence, but he has decent guard, high guard, blocks most of them. He's able to get the collar tie, then land, and then he's able to switch to the underhook position. But then he gets foot swept when he's pushing him in the clinch, but it didn't matter, dude. He dropped him all 3 rounds. So very impressive performance from SEMELSBERGER. And then he was coming off a tough loss to Alex Morono, where he lost the first 2 rounds decisively, but then in the third round almost had him finished. And that just showed all of his heart. So SEMELSBERGER is a bad man. SEMELSBERGER minus 110. Jeremiah Wells minus 110. I'm going to go with Matt SEMELSBERGER. Yes, Jeremiah Wells could knock him out in the first round, but I don't think so. I think SEMELSBERGER has a decent chin, and I think SEMELSBERGER can crack as well. So hopefully Jeremiah Wells respects his power. If not, then maybe SEMELSBERGER gets knocked out. But I think SEMELSBERGER will be able to like get takedowns on Jeremiah Wells. I don't know if he'll be able to hold him down, but I think he'll just be able to drain the gas tank at Jeremiah Wells eventually. I could see a finish going on here in this fight. So, but I think the fight's going to go over 1.5, minus 165. I like that. And maybe it's like one of those weird ones where two guys that can hit hard go all 3 rounds. Who knows? But I don't want to like bet that. So I'm just gonna go Matt SEMELSBERGER straight up minus 110. I don't mind that. And then the whole fight to go over 1.5, minus 165. Should be a fun one though. But I like SEMELSBERGER over the course of a full fight. Second fight on the main card at 125 pounds, women's flyweight. Newcomer making her second UFC appearance, Yasmin LUCINDO taking on Brogan Walker. Yasmin LUCINDO, she took on Yasmin Yaguri her last fight, and that was an amazing fight. Arguably the best fight on that card. In the first round, she lands some lunge overhands, and then she lands some hooks in the pocket, but then she eats a counter back. But then she gets pressed with the hook, but then she's able to return a flurry against her. But then she eats some leg kicks whenever she's walking towards her. But then in the second round, she throws an overhand right, but then she lands a left hook inside the pocket exchange. But then she gets rocked with a left hook off of a dip-in overhand, just kind of puts her face right into the punch. But then she lands overhand left, and then a hook counter, and then they both kind of land a flurry there and just get into a gunfight in the pocket. But then in the third round, she eats a 1-2 when she's coming in, and then she eats some crosses and overhands while she's loading up. And, you know, Yasmin LUCINDO, she goes bigger, goes home, and she was loading up the whole fight, and she was noticeably tired in the third round. We get it. Brogan Walker took on Juliana Miller her last fight, the Ultimate Fighter finale. In the first round, she lands a step and leg kick, but then she gets clipped with an overhand, but she's able to get the clinch against the fence, but then she gets passed by and taken down with a body lock to the mat right in the half guard. So I don't know why she kept clinching with her. Bad IQ. Then in the second round, she eats a jab off of a leg kick. She lands an overhand right and a left in the pocket, and she's able to she gets the clinch again, but then she gets tripped, and then she gives up the back, and then just defends her naked choke the whole time. I don't know why she clinched with Juliana again, but then she's able to reverse eventually, but she's not able to hold her down there. And then back on the feet, she stalks, looks for some jabs, but then she eats some jabs, and then she eats a 1-2 right down the middle while she's loading up a big shot for some reason. And then she lands an overhand left in the clinch, but then she gets tripped, and then she just gets TKO'd with ground and pound. So she just made horrible decisions the whole fight. Brogan Walker plus 290. Yasmin LUCINDO minus 350. I'm going to go with Yasmin LUCINDO. Brogan Walker's makes horrible decisions. Yasmin, she's a little wild. Maybe she can crack, dude. I think she's going to knock Brogan Walker out, honestly. I know that doesn't happen to women's fighting too often, but I really think it's going to happen. And Juliana Miller didn't pan out too well. She lost her last fight. Didn't look very good. And Brogan, you know, she kind of walked through Brogan Walker, so I'm going to go with Yasmin LUCINDO, minus 350. The whole fight to go under 2.5 rounds, plus 200. I think that's a steal. Pick that. Feature fight of the evening at 155 pounds, men's lightweight. Bobby the King Green makes his return against Jared Flash Gordon. Both guys looking for redemption here. Both guys coming off of disappointing losses. I think this is the Paddy Pimblett sweepstakes. And it should be a fun fight for the fans. And it's two, like, just real OGs going at it, it seems like. Like, two tough, respectable guys that work hard and have been around for a while and paid their dues, and I'm excited to see it happen, and it's also going to be violent. So Bobby Green took on Drew Dober his last fight. In the first round, he steps over the top of his body lock attempt into the mount for a second. Can't really hold it though. But then he gets back to his feet. He has his back to the fence, and he's able to slip shots. He lands some lunge jabs, and he rocks him a couple times with a stiff jab. But then he gets clipped with the left cross when he's just kind of moving his head back and forth. But then he eats a leg kick and a cross. But then he's able to land a short right hook on the return. Then in the second round, he leans back, lands a 1-2, skirts the fence. And then he throws some teeps and some short hooks and a jab and then a body kick. But then he gets pressed to the corner. Dober's actually able to cut him off and just walks through Bobby's shots because Bobby doesn't hit that hard. And then he eats a right hook and a left off of his jab and just gets KO'd off of there. So just gets KO'd with a couple of hooks from Drew Dober, who has a crimson chin and hits like a truck. So tough one. He looked very good before that, though. He was cracking Drew Dober. He gave him a bloody nose. It's just Drew Dober, and Bobby doesn't have the firepower to keep him off of him, but, you know, valiant effort by him. And then Jared Gordon took on Paddy Pimblett his last fight. In the first round, he lands a step-in left hook, and then he lands a left hook off of his jab, and then he presses with another, and he kind of crashes into him. Then he lands a right hook to the body, then to the head. Really nice movement. Then he kind of circles out, but then he eats a leg kick and a long hook and an uppercut, but then he's able to block most of it, but gets clipped. But then he gets pressed with a head kick and a long combination, but then he's able to land a dip-in left hook. And then he stuffs the double leg attempt with an underhook and then a pancake to end the first round. Lets him know he's not going to be choking him out. Then in the second round, he walks into a head kick, but then he's able to land a left hook through there. And then he's able to rip the head and then some left hooks on the fence. But then he clinches with a double. But then he gets caught in the side rear naked choke, kind of like a weird choke that Paddy has. But then he's able to get out of it, and then he's able to get the clinch, and then he's able to land an overhand right in the clinch, but then he eats an overhand at range and he kind of backs up, but then he eats an uppercut into the clinch, but then he eats an overhand on the break. So kind of got caught there a little bit, but basically that left hook was just landing all night for Gordon. But then in the third round, he decided to take off for some reason and just try to clinch him to death. I don't know what you're doing, Jared. In the third round, he landed straight to the body, goes right to the clinch, gets around the back, doesn't do much though. And then he slides off his back and gets reversed at the end. So not a good look. I don't know if he won the third round or not, but he looked really good the first couple rounds though. Jared Gordon, plus 220, and Bobby King Green, minus 260. I'm going to go with Bobby Green. Don't like the price. Jared Gordon, not a big power puncher. Bobby Green is a lot faster. Bobby Green can wrestle. Bobby Green, decent wrestling defense. Jared Gordon just going to press him the whole time. And it's going to be like the Drew Dober fight, but Gordon is not going to hit as hard as Drew Dober. And also I think Jared's going to waste his time trying to get takedowns or trying to get clinches. And Bobby's going to be able to work his way out of there. Once he breaks the clinch or stuffs a takedown, he's going to be popping 1-2s or jabs, landing some body kicks. I think he's just going to piece him up, skirt the fence, win a 3-round decision. So Bobby Green by decision might be a decent one, but, you know, not super good value because that's how he wins. But Bobby King Green, baby. Co-main event of the evening. I don't know why this is a co-main event. I think Bobby Green and Jared Gordon should be the main event. It's a co-main event, but whatever. 185 pounds men's middleweight. Brad Tavares taking on Bruno Silva. Both guys coming off a loss. Both guys need a win here. It doesn't really do much for either guy, honestly. I guess it gets Bruno Silva kind of back on track. Brad Tavares is like the gatekeeper to the top 15. And Brad Tavares wins, you know, just kind of keeps him around there. But should be a fun scrap here. Brad Tavares took on Dricus Du Plessis his last fight. In the first round, he landed a short hook off of a blitz. And then he defends a single leg attempt and he pancakes him with a lat, and he's able to get a lat drop. And then he rips the blitz and then he rocks him with the right hook. And then in the second round, he lands some overhands whenever they crash, but then eats a head kick and some 1-2s. But then he lands some leg kicks. And then he's circling, but then he gets pressed and he eats a straight right. But then he lands a check left hook off of Dricus's blitz, but then he gets dropped with the hook in the pocket. Kind of gets caught staring there. And then in the third round, he lands some body kicks at range, but then he eats a 1-2 in the pocket. But then he gets pressed back with a blitz, and he blocks most of them, but then he eats a back fist off of his jab, kind of wobbles him a little bit. But then he eats a 1-2-1 combination at range with his hands down. So pretty fun fight. He looked pretty good in the first round. And, you know, Dricus tried to go for that takedown, and Tavares capitalized off of it, and that was a big swing for him. So, you know, pretty savvy in the grappling department. And then Bruno Silva took on Gerald Meerschaert, his last fight. In the first round, he pressures and he ducks the jabs and he looks for some overhands, but then he gets blasted up without range out of nowhere. Like, this fight was pretty uneventful, though. Then in the second round, he lands an overhand off of his knee, but then he eats a body kick in return. And then he lands a 1-2 off of his jab against the fence, but then he gets dropped with an inside leg kick, kind of like wobble drop or whatever. So then in the third round, he misses with the right, but then he lands a left overhand against the fence. Then his hook gets ducked, and then he gets clinched. And then he eats a left hook off the separation of the clinch, and then he gets dropped. And then Gerald Meerschaert jumps on that guillotine and submits some classic club and sub from Gerald Meerschaert. So don't know, man. I don't know if his chin's gone or what, but it's not good news for him against Brad Tavares. But Bruno Silva plus 135, Brad Tavares minus 155. I'm going with Brad Tavares. Bruno Silva, he just looks lethargic, and you know, Brad Tavares has a lot of activity, decent, you know, pretty savvy in the grappling department, like I said. And I just think he's going to be able to out activity Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva likes to get in his wars. So does Brad Tavares. I think Brad Tavares is going to do more. I think he'll be able to clinch him up if he has to. Maybe get a takedown. I could see Brad Tavares getting a 3-round decision here. But that's a different bet. I'm going to stick with Brad Tavares minus 155. Decent profit. Or you want to go Brad Tavares by decisions like plus 160 or something like that. So you could pick that one if you want. I'm just superstitious about the prop outcomes. The main event of the evening. Honestly, I've been waiting for this fight for a very long time because we need answers at heavyweight, but also this matchup is just so intriguing. You got Sergey Inspector Gadget Pavlovich taking on Curtis Razor Blades, classic wrestler versus a striker that hits like a nuke. Matchup at heavyweight. You know, this fight is not going to last long. It's not. It's either going to be Curtis gets him down. Actually, it might last long, but I don't think it's going to. It's either Curtis gets him down and rides him out and beats him up, maybe gets a TKO, or Sergey Pavlovich knocks him out within like literally the first minute. So I'm excited. But this fight has title implications. We don't know when they're fighting for the title, but the winner of this fight is probably going to get the winner of that title fight. Either that or they'll fight Jilton Almeida if he wins, but it's a big fight at heavyweight. Sergey Pavlovich took on Tai Tuivasa his last fight. In the first round, he lands an overhand and an uppercut flurry, but then he gets clipped with a counter hook. But then he drops him with a straight right off of his overhand, and he's able to land some counter hooks whenever Tuivasa's loading up, and he drops him with an uppercut, and then he just lands some vicious ground and pound and gets the knockout by ground and pound. Not TKO by ground and pound, knockout by ground and pound up with his head's like up against the fence. So pretty vicious stuff, and this dude does not stop punching. So it's pretty terrifying. But before that, he took on Derek Lewis. In the first round, he's able to counter the right hooks off of his load up. And then he lands a hook flurry and then some right hooks and an uppercut and just gets the KO. He just like went first off Derek Lewis. And you know, Derek Lewis, like, he threw those wide looping shots, but Sergey's hooks were a lot shorter and a lot tighter, and they hit the target before Derek Lewis did. It was a gunfight, 50-50 with Derek Lewis. Sergey won that, and his arms are very long for his body, so that helps too, but just deaded two of my favorite heavyweights. And then Curtis Blades took on Chris Daukaus, his last fight. Well, before that, he took on Tom Aspinall. That fight did not get going, so I'm not counting that one. But before that, last March, he took on Chris Daukaus. In the first round, he eats a right cross in the pocket, and then he's kind of backs out of range. But then he lands some leg kicks, lands a step in right cross, and then he feints some jabs and uppercuts, and then he lands a leg kick and a left cross. He gets clipped with some overhands whenever he's stepping in to throw his jab, but that's Curtis downloading the information. Then in the second round, he lands a straight right off of Chris Daukaus' wide right hook, gets the knockout instantly, like 15 seconds into the second round. Chris Curtis got hands, who knew? But yeah, so should be a very explosive fight. Curtis Blades minus 175, Sergey Pavlovich plus 150. I'm going to go with Sergey Pavlovich. I think that they're going to bang, and I think Sergey's going to get him. He's just going to clip him, dude. His punches are tighter and his arms are longer. He gets to the target before other people do. That's why he wins. Yeah, you know, you could say he got dominated in the grappling by Alistair Overeem a very long time ago. Curtis Blades, does he even wrestle anymore? I don't know. Maybe Curtis Blades is going to stand with him. Just too many questions. It's heavyweight. Plus 150 for Sergey Pavlovich, who deaded Tuivasa and Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, who knocked out Curtis Blades, by the way. So don't think too much about it. I'm going to go with the underdog at heavyweight. The whole fight to go under 1.5 rounds, minus 155. I really think that's going to be the case here, especially if Pavlovich gets a victory. I'm going to go with Sergey. Can't wait. Should be awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks for riding with me. Appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that stuff. Hit me up. Ask me questions. Give me advice. I need it. I feel good about this one. We only got 11 fights, so a little bit more manageable. Not as crazy of underdogs. I just feel good about this one. These matchups are a little bit more low-key, so maybe I think about them a little less. Maybe I think a little more objectively. So I did my homework, did all my research, and, you know, just time to lay the bets. Let's see some upsets. Let's see some violence, and let's see some profits. Good luck, everyone. Let's get it this week.